I'm MattHawes of The Happy Show, and I'm here today, or tonight, with another video vlog. It is, let's see, September 10th, that's 2009, and I'm here at the front of my shop to show you something about the Little Rascals. That's right, the Little Rascals, also known as Our Gang. Originally it was called Our Gang. It was a series that ran from 1922 to 1944. Originally it was silent, and then it became talkies. Talkies being talking pictures. For those of you that don't know, in the beginning, movies didn't have sound. Oh sure, at the movie theaters they would play a piano or organ or whatever. Sometimes if it was a big enough theater, they even had an orchestra. But as a rule, there was no sound on pictures back then. They didn't have the technology to put the audio on to the film. So, but that changed. That changed in the 1920s, and by 1929, the process was perfected enough that films started being released regularly with sound. And by the 30s, silent pictures were pretty much of a bygone era, unless they listen to that traffic. Unless they were going to be done for artistic purposes or whatever, but the need for silent films had went away since they now had sound, and a lot of you people out there will remember watching the Little Rascals, which is what Our Gang became known as whenever they started to put them on television in the 50s. You'll remember like Buckwheat and Stymie and Alfalfa and Spanky and Porky and Darla and all of them. And I've always been a fan of the Our Gang films. I enjoy, one thing I enjoy is the all ages quality of the Hal Roach produced films. Now let me explain, if you don't know, Hal Roach was a film producer. He owned his studios, Hal Roach Studios, throughout the 20s, 30s and onward. And he produced all sorts of films, but mostly he was known for doing comedy and short subject films. Short subject films, I'll give you a little bit of a history lesson here. Short subject films were presented before a major film, like a major feature. The feature presentation used to be, back in the days, the words feature presentation actually meant something, because you would go to a movie theater, you would see a short film, you would see a cartoon, you would see the news, Hollywood news film, you would see a film, then a major film, the full length, that's what I'm trying to say here, full length film, the feature presentation, and a lot of people would actually go see a lot of these short films, so they would go see the pictures mostly for the short films, sometimes more than they did the feature films, and Hal Roach was one of the guys who produced mostly short films for a period. Then he later went into the feature-length films when the short subjects started to go away. Back around the late 30s, mid-late 30s, it became more common to see what they call double features, which of course meant two feature-length films put back-to-back. It was during the Depression era still, and so a lot of people were able to get more bang for their buck by going to see the two feature-length films. And I still think there might have been a cartoon or something thrown in it. I don't know. I'm not that old. I wasn't around the time. But I do know about, this, of course, by talking with people who were around the time, and, of course, reading about the history and all. And, anyway, during the period, though, from 22 to 44, Hal Roach, originally Hal Roach produced the series, and then in 1938, I think I forgot the year right, 1938, MGM took over production of the series. When the MGM took over production, the short films that were made of the Our Gang series weren't quite as good. There's still some gems, and a lot of the earliest stuff that MGM produced on their own still feature the cast that most people to this day associate with Our Gang, that being Spanky, Darla, Alfalfa, Buckwheat, and Porky. And then it graduated to where you had Froggy, and you had Mickey, and you had, what's the one chick's name? No, later on they had the other different kids that would join until finally the series ended. But in the very beginning, there was a whole other gang. There was Mickey Daniels and Joe Cobb and Mary Cornman and just a bunch of others, Farina. And so it was the silent films if you like silent films, which I do, they're awesome. I enjoy those, and they're fun and frantic, but they are a different animal. It's funny how silent films kind of have their own distinct feel, and not just because you can't hear them, strictly speaking. There's just because of the limitation of the technology at the time, not having film, there's little things that are done differently. You hear that? There are little things that are done differently than they're done the way they did the things in film, stylistically speaking, or storytelling wise. The necessity of having to communicate to audience via silent films, when they couldn't do the sound, kind of gave it its own kind of art form. It's fun to watch silent films for that reason. But then, of course, the talkie era came along, and but this is not really supposed to be a history on film. This is supposed to be a thing where I want to recommend some videos to you people out there. I think I mentioned this collection before, but if I have, I'm recommending it again. There is a collection, and let me show you with the camera here. Look at my shot, by the way. No, right here, what we have is we have on Amazon.com. Excuse the camera as I knock it about. The Little Rascals collection from Genius Products, right there, and that is. It says remastered, restored, and uncut. Not entirely true. These things, some of the prints are pretty good, but there was a release of the same series here, basically the same series of videos, was released in 1994 on VHS by Cabin Fever, who also released some of these on DVD throughout the 90s and early 2000s. They released some of their prints, and their prints was taken from the Library of Congress's master prints. That's right, and they remastered those, and the Cabin Fever collection looks great, looks awesome. This collection isn't bad, and it's way, 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 way better than TV prints that those of you old enough to remember when King's World would be running these things or syndicated these shows on various television stations across the country. It looks way, 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 way better than those. And I have a story to tell you here in a minute about that. But this collection here has 80 original theatrical shorts, and it includes all that Cabin Fever put out in the 90s. Now, what it includes, this collection includes all the talkies. That's the talking motion pictures shorts of from Hal Roach, the Hal Roach produced. This actually has pretty much the cream of the crop in it. Now, again, it doesn't have. This collection doesn't have any of the silent films. I think there's some really great ones in there. Some of those silent films were reworked or redone in a sense with the later cast members during the talkie era. But it don't have the silent films, but it does have all the talkies. It says it's a complete collection. That's a misnomer. It's kind of misleading there because, it's just the talkies and just from the Hal Roach era. So that covers 1929 to 1938 of the talkies. But if you want to get a good collection, usually it's around $60-ish, $60 range. So it's a little steep, but you get 80 original shorts. Most of these are 20-minute long. They're what they call two-reelers. Two-reelers. Two-reelers, when we talk about short films, that meant each reel is 10 minutes. So two-reeler is 20 minutes. Towards 1936, I think it was, production, like I said, shorts were kind of going away, and they were making room for double features. So a lot of short films were shortened, and so two-reelers became one-reeler. And so that's the same with this set. Towards the end of this set, you'll see that because I think it's all in chronological order, you'll see that the short films become 10-minute films. And again, that's right around 36. So there's a couple years worth on this collection. Now, if you're a completist like me, you will be interested to know that the films that MGM produced are also now finally being released, but it's a limited release. Now, let me explain again. Hal Roach, he produced the stuff from the silent era all the way up to 1938. His films that he produced were distributed originally from the Path or Pathé Exchange. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, it's one or the other. And they did it up till like 1928, from 1922 to around 1928. And you'll notice that on the Genius Products collection, the complete collection I just told you about, a lot of them will have the MGM logo at the beginning, but those aren't produced by MGM. What happened in 1928 is that Hal Roach worked out a deal with MGM, a much better way of distributing their films, because MGM was a major studio. And so basically, Hal Roach made the films, his studio made the Our Gang films, and Pathé Exchange originally distributed them. Then in 1928, MGM started distributing them. So from 1928 to 1938, for 10 years, MGM distributed the films, but they did not make the films. Now, still by Hal Roach. Have I stressed that enough? So from 1938 to 1944, those were produced and distributed by MGM, and they were all one-reelers, meaning they're all 10-minute shorts. But there was 52, I think I got that right, 52 remaining shorts from 1938 to 1940. Am I saying 42 or 44? I think it's 44. I get the years confused. In fact, I think it says 42 on this set here, but I think it actually is 44 on this thing here. This is, let me show you here. This is WB Shop. The WB Shop. That's the Warner Brothers Shop. www.wb.com for the Warner Brothers Shop. Whoa, look at that. I'm not editing this thing, so you're just going to put up with that stuff. So what happened is this thing is printed for demand. See, I don't know if Warner Brothers feels that there isn't enough demand to make it a mass market release and be available at places like Best Buy or what have you. So they decide to make it print on demand, which means that you order directly from their site, but you're getting it directly from Warner Brothers. And you can go ahead and order this whole collection from them. And it includes 572 minutes, that's 52 of the short films, from the 1938 to 1944. Like I said, it says 42 there, but I think it's supposed to be 44. And I looked at the stats. It does include all the available films. Look, here you go. Watch this. Disc 5, 43 to 44. Disc 1's 41 to 43. See, they got it wrong. It is all the way to 44, but they include all those. It says 44 there, but on the description it will say 42. Anyway, so it includes all the MGM produced shorts. So if you get that collection, that's the Our Gang collection from WBShop.com. If you get that and you go to Amazon.com or Best Buy or wherever to get the other collection, the Little Rascals Complete Collection, you'll have every single talkie made of the Our Gang series produced by both studios. And so then you only have to worry about the silence. And there's actually a guy who puts up videos here on YouTube who's put up some of the silent films of Our Gang. Okay, so I lied. I had to edit. Okay, but that's because I had trouble finding the website. It's That Old Gang of Mine on YouTube, which I don't know if you can see right there, but yeah, That Old Gang of Mine is a website, www.youtube.com/ThatOldGangofMine, and that is the site that has some of the silent films from the Our Gang series. And right now they only have 6 up there. They usually have a lot more, and if you look around you might be able to find some more silent Our Gang films to get an idea what those are like. Other than that, you can all order some collections off Amazon or eBay that might be like collections of silent films, but at this point it's the only thing we really have, because the only other choice is to wait for this other company to release their stuff. See, Laughsmith.com, that's Laughsmith Entertainment, they talk about releasing 32 restored comedies on 4 DVDs of the silent film era of the Our Gang series. But I don't know if it's for rights issues or whatever, but I haven't found any new information. This thing's been up there for a while and they haven't updated it. In 1994, there was this god-awful movie made of the Little Rascals. Some of you, if you're of the age where you were young at the time, may think it was an okay movie, and I'm not here to question your opinion on it. But in my opinion, it sucked. It was all the things that the worst of the MGM films, the MGM produced films were, as far as the Our Gang series, and that it was just too cutesy or too kiddie and all this. The one thing that I enjoyed about the Hal Roach produced films is he understood that he was filming for an all ages audience, because all ages went to the movie theaters at those times to watch these films. And so the humor is timeless in a lot of his films. I mean, there's some stuff that's dated, but overall the humor is pretty much timeless. And Hal Roach understood also that he wanted to appeal to people, from 6 to 60, and he wanted something that was going to make everyone laugh. And so that is why his films, I think, hold up as far as the humor value in them. The MGM produced ones, not so much. In that 1994 film seemed to take its cue from those god-awful worst of the MGM films. And again, the collection that WB Shop has, there's good and bad. There's some good stuff in there. I wouldn't be buying it. If not, maybe. I mean, I am a completionist, so maybe I would. But anyway, the 1994 series was responsible for Cabin Fever releasing the newly restored and newly remastered at the time prints from the Library of Congress. And one time, whenever there was a huge snowstorm in Evansville that happened, this actually happened before the Cabin Fever released their VHS cassettes. At this time, there was no real, or at least not a whole bunch of the video cassettes commercially available. Black Hawk Films had some of the Little Rascal Our Gang films, but they were okay prints. But that was all that was commercially available on VHS. Not by no means the whole series. Well, one night before the Cabin Fever series was released on VHS, I was watching TV, and a snowstorm was happening in the city, a major snowstorm that knocked out the transmitter, which basically screwed up the network feed that was being supplied to the local affiliate. And so they were still on the air, though. They just couldn't get the network feed, which means that they couldn't get like NBC programming. I think it was the NBC network. So the local affiliate did have these old, I guess, prints of the King's World Features version of the Little Rascal films, and they decided to show those prints throughout the night, those shorts, and so the whole night it was a marathon of the Little Rascals films. And so I popped in my VHS cassette into my VCR, and I recorded hours worth of this marathon. Now, the thing is, the King's World feature, which had been putting the Little Rascals on video since the 1950s, I guess, and distributing it to television and stuff, those are the prints that a lot of people have seen of the films, and they were cut up and had high contrast and everything else. In fact, the reason why the Little Rascals are called the Little Rascals instead of Our Gang, at least whenever we're talking about the Hal Roach produced ones, are because Our Gang is the name that MGM owns. That's why WB could call it Our Gang, but the other set is called Little Rascals when it's producing, or when it's the Hal Roach produced films. So anyway, what ended up happening is there in the 50s, when King's World was distributing the shorts to TV stations, the Hal Roach produced shorts, they retitled it The Little Rascals, which wasn't totally without precedent, because they were referred to as Hal Roach's Rascals alternatively and throughout the 20s and 30s, but most people knew the series as Our Gang originally. But because of the TV generation growing up in the 50s and 60s, seeing these King's World features prints, they and it was called the Little Rascals. You have generations who never knew them as anything but the Little Rascals. And anyway, so getting back to that deal with the TV station, I taped this marathon that was on TV of all these little Rascals prints, right? All these shorts that were being shown. And then I went ahead and about a year or two after that, got the Cabin Fever set when it was released. And for a couple of years, I just watched those periodically. And I saw, of course, the nice, rich, black and white color, or not color, but black and white tones, and the nice clear prints, cleaned up. There wasn't too much in the way of scratches and all that. And it looked beautiful. It actually looked the best they had ever looked in the years since they were originally released. Then I decided one day to dig out my old VHS copy that I had taped of that marathon and view that again and see how that looked in comparison to the Cabin Fevers. Oh my God. There was a huge difference. They had, on those old prints that have been circulating probably since the 50s. These are the same exact prints. And the contrast was so high you lost some of the details from people's faces and the backgrounds and such. And of course, like I said, they were edited for television. They were edited for length because they crammed usually 3 shorts in a half-hour program on TV. They allowed for commercials. Plus, they took 2 reelers and made them into 10-minute long, basically the length of 1 reeler. So they cut out literally 50% of some of those shorts. And I knew this before I got the Cabin Fever, but the difference whenever you saw one right after another, it's unbelievable. And that's my video vlog for today. Yay! My throat is dry. Yay! Yeah.